we're off to the races. Welcome to a new episode of the Rebel Radio Podcast. We're using StreamYard now to record instead of Zencastr, and it doesn't really give me any kind of countdown like Zencastr does. That's why the last couple episodes people notice I'm going, hey, I think we're on. We're off the right. Yeah, okay, we're recording.
It's more of a click, and it's like a starting gun. It just goes off, boom. All right, the race is on.
You better be ready because you're on the air, full blast, full speed ahead. Intensity. It's like throw you into the fire.
You can't have any of those hot takes, or like hot mic moments.
Kind of like this movie we're doing today. It's intense and literally throws you into I don't know if I'd say it throws you into the fire, but throws you into the sands of Afghanistan and the intensity of it. That might be a good word for it.
Definitely.
But yeah, man, it is Thanksgiving week in America. I am full of turkey and gravy and all that good stuff that we ate yesterday.
Ham and stuffing, and
I got in charge of cooking the turkey this year. That's a
big deal.
It got rave reviews, so I felt I got some positive vibes from that, and pat myself on the back and felt pretty good. I accomplished cooking the yard bird.
You should feel good, man. That's like, it's always tough, because there's not a whole lot of room for error. If you screw it up, there's not a whole lot of options for you to kind of check down that day.
Right. Like you're basically fucked if the turkey doesn't come out right. Or, you can be like Christmas vacation style. It's a little dry,
Dump it in some water.
It's like no, it came out well, man, and it was a good day. So, I was definitely tired when I got home last night, and I'm not one of those people that overeats on Thanksgiving. Like, these people like, oh man, there is that thing, supposedly something in turkey that makes you sleepy and all that. But a lot of it's just because you eat too fucking much food.
That's true.
and
all your blood is rushing to your stomach trying to digest
that just shit. Enough where I felt good. If I had taken another bite or two, it would have probably overdid it, and because you just have to be smart about it.
This year I had too much stuffing, and then I guess it's so we went to my in-laws, and at my house you don't eat anything until we've said prayers,
25 prayers,
thanks, we have one long one, and then, you get to the fifth prayer. You're like, fuck, I want to eat, goddammit. Okay, stop thinking everyone No. Here, I'm just standing around and people are grabbing food. And, Jackie she's like, oh, here you go to get you started. And it was 2 tamales. And I was like, do we just eat? There's no we're thankful for this. Thank you all for being here. Let's have a good time, and then, a flare gun or something, metaphorically speaking.
Is it safe?
Yeah. Cause I don't want to start eating. And then they're like, whoa. It's like, you can't start eating yet, So I was afraid to do that. I wasn't used to the custom cause we haven't been there in a while. So that's kind of what I dealt with, but, I only had one plate, but I had forgotten that I had 2 tamales, and then I went back and I grabbed a little bit of yams, and then by the time I grabbed my plate, it was really filling because I technically had a plate and a half.
I don't do yams. I don't like yams.
It's got to be. I like my aunt's yams.
I don't like yams, and I don't like cranberry sauce. It's just disgusting.
I like cranberry sauce when it's part of that chutney. It's cream cheese and cranberry sauce.
That's not cranberry sauce. That's raspberry chipotle.
But yeah, basically.
But I don't like raspberries, so
yeah.
That shit. And here's another thing: I don't like cooked pies, like apple pie. Nope, I don't do cooked fruit.
Wow,
peach pie, none of that shit. No, I don't like.
Oh, not
fruit.
peach. Yeah,
I like pecan pie a little bit.
I like pecan,
but only a little bit because it's super sweet. So I can only just a little bit. Just a small slice is good.
Yeah.
But give me anything with chocolate in it, 100%. Chocolate pies, things like that. But
what about
like
pumpkin? You a pumpkin
no,
fan?
I'm not. Pumpkin's disgusting.
Okay.
Yeah. Me and my boss at work, we both agree that pumpkin is just one of those things just should not be eaten. It's nasty. He doesn't like pumpkin either. He's like, no, it's nasty.
No, leave that for Starbucks, huh?
Yeah. I'm not a pumpkin spice person. When pumpkin spice season rolls around, it's like, nah, but strangely, I've had a couple, there is some pumpkin in Oktoberfest beers. There are a couple of Oktoberfest beers that are okay. Like Shiner Oktoberfest isn't too bad.
Yeah.
But I'm not a huge fan of them, but I'll drink a little bit, but not, I don't drink much beer anymore. Now, I did have about 3 or 4 whiskey and Cokes yesterday, so I was feeling pretty good on Thanksgiving.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah. So I was, felt pretty, I didn't have to drive. I rode with my mom to my brother's house. So, I indulged a little bit yesterday. Felt pretty good.
There you go, man. Yeah, that's good that you.
And I spaced them out just enough so I wasn't like drunk or nothing. I was just feeling nice,
Feeling nice.
Yeah, and it was a good day, good turkey day for all. And now it's a full on to Christmas season and the hustle and bustle of the holidays, as they say.
Yep, we got to do the old, you got to be like Arnold and fight with the Sinbads out there for that last Turbo Menthol.
That's right.
Time. It's time for that.
Yeah, and thank God for online shopping. That's all I have to say.
Yes, dude.
I could not deal with people, man. I'm like, I used to not be like that. I used to be like, whatever, I'll go out. Now it's like, as I've gotten older, man, I'm like, I just look at these people. I'm like, no, I don't want to be anywhere near people I don't know. And it's like,
Yeah, and we kind of got used to the we use Instacart a lot because if we go, sometimes it's easier for us to just look around and say, okay, this is what we want, instead of like walking around and then you see all the impulse buys and you end up spending more. Then plus you got a bunch of kids. You're like, okay, I don't have them trying to grab stuff, and then making the bill jump up another $30 or $40.
Oh, dude, that's easy. I went in Walmart today, and not to give Walmart a plug, but I intended on buying like 3 things. Oh, I got to spend $60. I'm like, what the hell the fuck this happen? Because I had 2 of the kids with me.
Exactly. So we do that, and it's like I actually went shopping the other day in a store, and I'm like, what? There's a line. I gotta wait. I'm not used to this.
And then you have like, I'm pretty introverted, so then you have to interact when they're like, "Oh, how are you today?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm good."
Good.
I really have to speak back to you.
Yeah.
Maybe she's cute, but
just pretend like you speak a random language, speaking like Mignonese or whatever. Whatever they talk, and they're like, "Oh, he's foreign."
Yeah.
Yeah. You're whatever. You're the Witcher. You're like Henry Cavill in The Witcher, where he just grunts.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. And but yeah, man. Other than that, it was a good holiday, and I ended the holiday with watching it's kind of becoming a somewhat of a traditional Thanksgiving movie for me. And I sat down with my oldest last night and watched Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
Nice.
We got home. It's like it's like the perfect Thanksgiving movie. Dell and Neil trying to get home for Thanksgiving, and with a wonderful message at the end, we find out that, of course, Dell doesn't have a home or anywhere to be, and Neil, after this adventure with this man who he learns to respect, I guess, and not hate like he did at the beginning, and it takes him in. And I always wonder, I watch that movie and I always think like what happened afterwards. And my thought is, I like to think that Neil helped Dell get off his feet, maybe get a home back under him, and they just became really great friends and like family the rest of their lives. That's how I feel that it ended. Is that Neil helped Dell because Neil worked in marketing. Dell was a great salesman, and see how the two could work together. That's how I feel about that. That's probably what happened afterwards.
That's probably best case scenario and probably the most accurate and what probably would have happened.
Yeah. And it's just a good movie, and it makes me laugh every time I watch it. And it's a good way to kick off the holiday season of movies. So I'm sure over the next month, I'll get some Jingle All the Way in there. I'll get some Christmas Vacation there.
Definitely.
The kids actually were watching Christmas Chronicles while we were putting the tree up the other night.
Nice.
So I'm sure I'll get some Christmas movies in there in the next month as we roll towards the holiday. So I did watch that, and I watched. I'm almost finished all of Scott Pilgrim Takes Off. I think I have 2 episodes left, maybe. It's a lot of fun, man. I mean, it definitely expands from what the movie did because it's based on the comics. It's pretty wild, pretty zany anime. And it's if you're a fan of Scott Pilgrim versus the World, it's definitely worth taking the time to watch the new anime on Netflix. Really, really enjoying it. So far, it's cool to hear Chris Evans come back and do the voice of I can't think of the character's name, but he's in there.
The one with the actor stuntman.
Yeah,
dude.
Yeah. And so it's cool. It's definitely some good stuff to watch. So worth watching on Netflix right now. And then I didn't watch a whole ton this week because still was kind of getting over that flu bug. I did watch I had never seen this. This just was a random thing I just kind of watched. I had never seen Draft Day with Kevin Costner.
Where
he plays the general manager of the Cleveland Browns, and it's about their draft, and it's directed by the late great Ivan Reitman, and I don't know, good. I enjoyed the heck out of it, man. It's nothing special. It's not going to win any awards. It's a real straightforward sports movie, but man, I liked it, man. It's got Frank Langella in it and Jennifer Garner, a good cast. Dennis Leary plays the coach of the team, and just kind of. I don't know if it's any official insight as to what goes on Draft Day, but the NFL supported the film. They allowed them to use logos. Commissioner, I can't think of his name. What is the fucking commissioner of the NFL's name?
I forget. Oh,
Goodall.
Roger Goodell.
Roger Goodell. Yep. Goodell appears in the movie, so the NFL obviously supported the film.
Doesn't Arian Foster make an appearance?
Arian Foster is in it. Yeah, he's in it. And when it's funny, I didn't recognize. I'm like, man, that dude looks really familiar. And I looked up. Oh, that's fucking Arian Foster playing for the Texans.
Doesn't he have like a British accent in the movie or something?
No, he's just regular. Terry Crews plays his dad.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And so it was a fun little watch. It was cool with the late great Chadwick Boseman's in it. So it was a fun little watch. It's on HBO Max, or Max, whatever the fuck it's called now. And I just sat back and was like, hey, I'm gonna watch this. And I don't know, just a random. Every now and then you'll do that. Just watch a random movie you never see. I'm like, I've never seen this. I'm gonna watch it. And I liked it. It was good. I mean, like I said, not one of those movies was going to win any rewards or anything, but it entertained me for a couple hours. I also watched. So I guess I did watch a couple things. I watched Justice League War World, the new DC animated film.
Yeah.
The last few DC animated films haven't been great. This one I kind of liked. It's the Justice League is thrown into like they're each going through these simulations or something that sort of happens, and it's like they can't. They're omnipotent. They can't seem to get out of them, and then they all come together to figure out how to stop whoever's behind it at the end. And it was pretty good. It's ultra violent. It's definitely one of the more violent DC anime films. I was really shocked. I'm like, wow, it was like Apocalypse War level of violence. It was like that. And
is it kind of like Doom, where each one is in their own simulation?
Sort of, yeah, sort of
like
that.
Okay, and it's a plan that actually Batman came up with to take out the Justice League if they came out of control, and someone got a hold of the plans.
Yeah, I guess it has some similarities to Doom. Yeah. Cool. But it was interesting. It was I tried to watch all those, and I saw a couple weeks ago it had shown up on Max. I just hadn't sat down to watch it yet. So finally watched it. No, not the best. None of these current incarnations, other than the Long Halloweens, have been great. We all know this since the Apocalypse War. But when we get to the newsletter, there's a trailer for the next one, which hoping that it's going to right the ship as far as the way these DC animated films are headed. And we'll discuss that in a little bit. But that's kind of what I watched this week. On Draft Day, Scott Pilgrim Takes Off. I need to get back into Blue-Eyed Samurai because I really like that show. I just haven't had a chance to go back and continue on with it. Because it's one of those. Well, it's also one of those things like can't really watch it with the kids. Like Scott Pilgrim Takes Off.
Yeah.
You shouldn't watch with the kids because there's a lot of real adult dialogue with Scott Pilgrim Takes Off. But if they're not paying attention, you can kind of watch it because they're not going to really pick up one. There's no nudity or ultra violence in it like Blue-Eyed Samurai. It's ultra violent, lots of nudity. Can't watch it with the kids.
Yeah, no chance.
Scott Pilgrim Take Off, you can kind of watch with the kids in the room if you had to. So that's kind of what I watched this week.
Nice. Yeah. Oppenheimer, I had pre-ordered it and it came out, and I rewatched it and had Jackie watch it too. She did not like it as much as we did. She felt like it took a while for it to get interesting. But like once they were assembling the bomb and blowing stuff up, and she, kind of caught what was going on with the trial, and everything, she was like, okay, she started getting a little bit more interested in it. She said it was well acted.
You know what's funny is, I've heard that reaction from several women viewers.
Yeah.
And you know what I hate? I've started thinking about it. Is it because Oppenheimer is ultimately not a real good man, and he's kind of a womanizer? He doesn't appeal. He doesn't appeal to women viewers.
This is true.
Where men look at it from a different perspective. Men can understand that he's not a good man. He's not a good man, but men look at it from the historical perspective, and they look at it differently.
Exactly.
I wonder if it's a point of view. I wonder if it's a point of view of viewing between men and women. Because I've heard that same thing from women reviewers and things I've read, that they say it's kind of boring. They don't really like it. They can't get into it. Where men seem to get into it more. So I wonder if that has something to do
you're
with
like, okay,
the type of character that Oppenheimer
on his
is.
Character. Yeah. We see it as, okay, this is his character. This is one of his flaws.
Right.
And it adds to, who he is, versus like, oh, I can't get on board with this guy. This guy, he's slinging it around, no.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, another one of those films where it's like, definitely if you haven't seen it before, don't have the kids in the room, because those nude scenes, you just don't realize when they're going to pop up.
Right.
Like I remember telling myself, well, maybe I can take Jake, and as soon as they walk into a bedroom, I'll just say, all right, close your eyes, and I'll tell you when to open them. No, dude, it just happens. It's like 1 minute they're talking, and then whoop, Florence is like friggin', riding Cillian Murphy, just boom. Yeah, so it's like there's no chance of you catching it. But it was fun rewatching it, and I did bring Jake out whenever they were doing the bomb testing, so he could kind of see that part, because that part's real interesting. And then just all the actors you see when Drake from Nickelodeon's Drake and Josh is on there, which is crazy, and he's all grown up.
I plan on giving it a rewatch here eventually. There's never been a Nolan movie I haven't rewatched other than Interstellar. And Interstellar was more for me, not because I didn't like it, just because I find it so depressing. I just don't know if I can sit through it ever again.
Yeah. Yeah, that's like watching. I wish I would have waited to rent Sound of Freedom, because I don't think it's a movie in retrospect, I wouldn't want to own it, because it's one of those movies you just watch once.
Right.
Just like, what was that one?
Like, can you imagine anyone film ever watching The Boy with the Striped Pajamas a second time?
No.
It's like, no. Once, it's so horrifyingly sad. Once is enough. It's like, no, I can never do that ever again.
Yeah. Grave of the Fireflies is another one of those. It's like,
I look at Grave of the Fireflies a little different, because it's animated and it's still sad. I think it's a show me movie. Like, if someone's never seen it, you could sit down and watch it and see how someone reacts to it. Where The Boy in the Striped Pajamas, I don't think would be something I would want to show someone, because it's almost not fair to them, because it's so horrifying.
Mm-hmm.
Where Grave of the Fireflies is such a more important film, I think, to show people. I don't want that to sound insensitive, because Boy in the Striped Pajamas is an important film too. Yeah, but I think Grave of the Fireflies is such a powerful film, because it shows what animation can do, and not be just for kids.
Yeah, and it touches on the family aspect. If you've got kids, I think it hits you harder. Which Boy in the Striped Pajamas, same thing. There's there's a boy, and then there's men in there that used to be physicians, and now they're forced to be like laborers, and they're like they're trying to help the people that are like beating the shit out of them, even though they're being put to labor camps.
Yeah, it's horrifying.
And
that conversation came up. Well, this is like Schindler's List. You're probably never going to watch it more than once.
No.
That conversation came up yesterday at dinner somehow about, like, being okay to cry at movies, because I guess my brother and my sister-in-law let their boys watch Titanic, and the boys did not handle it well when people started dying.
Oh, wow.
Because it's so realistic, and that said their boys were crying and they were upset, and I told my nephew, like, it's okay to cry at movies, and that conversation came up about war movies and Saving Private Ryan and movies that make you cry, like American Sniper, man. I mean, I will say this: I sat in the theater the whole time, I was fine, and as soon as they showed his child at the end, dude, I'm bawling. When they showed the real Chris Kyle's son at the end, saluting his dad at the funeral, yeah, I was done. I was like, okay, the waterworks started. Man. I'm man enough to admit it.
Yeah, there's some things where it's like, if you don't feel anything, you need to get tested for being a sadist or something. Yeah,
it blows my mind when people say they don't cry in certain movies. I'm like, I look at them like, what's wrong with you? It's like, yeah, that's not normal. It's like, and especially ones that are based on true stories or realistic events like Saving Private Ryan. It's like hard to not have feelings for these things these people went through that or the boy in the striped pajamas, things like that. And we got a little off topic there, I guess. But Oppenheimer's not a sad story. It is based on real events. Now it's a sad story as far as the results of what that weapon created and what it ended up doing to Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and and thousands of people lost their lives because of that weapon. So,
yep. And it's like, that conversation of, the innocent people being caught in the crossfire. A lot of people don't mind, soldiers signing up and saying, all right, I'm going to shoot at people and I'm going to get shot at. And,
right.
This is what I'm doing. I signed up for it. But the people that are around, like in Grave of the Fireflies, that have no say in the war, and no say in what kind of fallout from the attacks, where that goes. It's, it's touchy there. So yeah, that's definitely the sad part. But Oppenheimer, it's out. Christopher Nolan says buy the Blu-ray so they can't, mess with your digital copy.
I know. I've seen that all over the internet. All these conversations coming up again about whether you own your own digital copies or not. And of course, I think Walmart and Fandango already released a statement saying, yes, you own the things you buy from us. But then Amazon's over there with their like, well, we don't know about that because Amazon. But I do think Fandango. That's why I trust Fandango and Vudu more, because they are run by a movie company, by Fandango.
Yeah.
And and it even says, I think someone posted somewhere the agreement when you buy it from Vudu compared to the Amazon one, and in the Vudu agreement shows that you do own it. So there's a big difference in that. I saw that over the internet this week. So, yeah.
Other than that, there's only one more movie that I did watch, and I rented it, and probably could have passed, and that's Expendables 4. Because I was just curious. I'm like, is it as bad as the critics said it was? And it is. The storyline, I mean, they're on a mission and they get jumped by Tony Jaa, and then they go back to, enact revenge, basically. And 50 Cent is in it.
Is it fat 50 Cent right now? Is he fat?
Yeah,
remember they made a big deal at the Super Bowl how he gained weight.
Yeah, he did gain a little bit of weight. And of course they do play some of his music in there, rather cheesily.
That's just self-serving.
The death scenes look like they were filmed from the 2008 or something. It's like you could tell it's CGI. It doesn't look like a modern.
Well, I mean, let's be real about that franchise. And I do have the Blu-ray that has the first 3 on it because I got it cheap. I think I'd pay like $5 bin at Walmart. I was like, you know what?
Yeah.
And the first one, okay. The second one, okay. But the third one, it started getting bad.
Yeah.
Like we didn't need any more,
Yeah, exactly. It's like I didn't think there was going to be any more after the third.
Well, remember a couple of years ago, they tried to pull off an all-female one, but they just couldn't pull it together. It ended up never happening. So they ended up like, well, all the guys want to do another one. Let's make a fourth one. You know,
that would have been cool if you'd get like, Bridget Nielsen, Sigourney Weaver, Sarah Connor. I can't think of her name right now.
Linda Hamilton.
Yeah, Linda Hamilton. If you got all of those like fucking 80s action women, dude, I think that would.
There weren't that many of them.
I know there wasn't many. You wouldn't need that many. Go for we go for quality there. But yeah, man. I thought Megan Fox might have had a bigger impact on my enjoyment of the movie, and she's in there for a little bit doing her thing. She looks cute. Still looks pretty. But that's about it. Just wait until it comes out streaming somewhere if you want to waste your time watching it. Definitely don't spend any money on it, that's for sure.
No.
Other than that was it.
Well, it's okay. Kind of a short week in news because of a holiday, so we'll go over these quick. There's only a couple things I talked about. There is a new trailer out for the next DC animated film, and they're going to adapt the super famous Crisis on Infinite Earths, drawn by the great George Perez and written by the great Marv Wolfman. It's one of the most famous comic books of all time. It's going to be a 3-part animated film. So hopefully they do this thing justice. They're doing 3 parts. And the trailer is out for part 1. And it's hard to judge the trailer because it's very much a teaser. It doesn't show a lot. But, man, this is just one of those that I really hope it's good because it's such a huge storyline, the Crisis on Infinite Earths. And hopefully it's going to lead to a new phase because obviously Crisis on Infinite Earths rebooted the DC universe back in the 80s, and similar to how Flashpoint did with the last wave of comic books of DC animated films and all this leading up to Apocalypse War. Mm-hmm. And then so hopefully they're going to reboot again after this, but hopefully it's a really good storyline going that reboot with the adaptation of Crisis on Infinite Earths. So I hope so. And hopefully, I really hope they take the opportunity to pay some nice tributes to the great George Perez too as well when they do this. It's
hopefully,
one of his seminal works. The other big news that came out this week is Dave Filoni is now the chief creative operator at Lucasfilm, and he is in charge of working with Kathleen Kennedy on the direction of all future Star Wars projects. And it's like Dave already came out and said, look, I'm not in charge of anyone. This is just a new title. He goes, I'm basically doing what I was already doing. Me and Jon Favreau we're just going to guide this universe and where it's going moving forward. All the fanboys that hate Kathleen Kennedy for some reason have shouted out, to make Dave Filoni be in charge. And maybe one day he will, when Kennedy retires. And I've said this before on the show, and I've said it many times, Kathleen Kennedy has made that company billions of dollars. She's not going anywhere, whether you like her or not. And Filoni is definitely the right man in charge. And he made some interesting statements talking about Ray Stevenson and his work as Balin Skull. And he said that he knows the story is still there, and he knows that they but he said something like, we're kind of in a holding pattern right now. And what this tells me is I maybe I'm reading too much into this, but during the strikes, I'm thinking Disney sat back, hey, let Ahsoka season 1 play out. There's been no formal announcement about Mandalorian season 4, even though we know it's probably coming, and we know that the movie is coming. But I'm expecting maybe in the next few months, maybe at Comic-Con next year or something, some sort of major Star Wars announcement as far as the future of the franchise, kind of like they do with the Marvel films. We know the Rey movie's coming. We know James Mangold's Star Wars movie still coming. All this stuff's still in the books, but it feels like they're finally sitting back and maybe they're going to have a plan soon. Because it is, as far as we know, Skeleton Crew is the next show that's going to come. But beyond that, we don't know what's next from Star Wars. So, So I guess, but Filoni and Favreau has done so much awesome stuff in the last few years. We got to sit back and just wait and see what else they give us.
Yeah, we've trusted them with what they've been tasked with so far. And they've put out, good stuff. I mean, they've put out some of the best stuff we've seen from Star Wars in a while. And I think just trust them. Yeah.
I mean, even the stuff that wasn't as popular. Like, I still enjoyed a lot of things about the Boba Fett show. And I enjoyed a lot of things about the Obi-Wan show. I think it's easy to say, oh, they were unnecessary. Did you really need them? Maybe. But you know what? Just who cares? Just
Star Wars, man. Yeah. Be grateful that we have more than just the prequel and the original trilogy.
Yeah.
You know?
So Filoni, chief creative operator, moving forward, can only mean good things, I would think, for Lucasfilm and the future of Star Wars.
Yeah.
So that's all I got in the news. Well, let's get into today's feature film, man. This is a movie that came out in, let me get my year right. This movie actually debuted almost 6 to 7 months before it even hit American theaters. It started winning a lot of film festival awards and ended up getting nominated and winning Best Picture in the year that in 2009, I believe it was, but its official release was in 2008 by hitting film festivals. And this movie was not a huge box office hit or anything like that, but it found ground by winning awards. I think it only made, 18, 20 million at the box office?
It's the lowest grossing Best Picture winner of all time. But even adjusting for inflation.
But it's a damn good movie, and that is The Hurt Locker. It's essentially a story of a bomb squad and their daily routines going through. Do they ever really identify this as Afghanistan? They mentioned that they do say it's Afghanistan. Okay, because I was wondering if it was just a third world country, but it is supposed to be during the Afghan war.
Yeah,
and and their bomb tech, played by Guy Pearce early in the film, is killed. So they bring in the new guy, and he's a hotshot young sergeant played by Jeremy Renner, who tends to have a wild side death wish for what he does, going about his business. And Anthony Mackie plays his second in command, and they don't like each other because of the way they have different views of operating, and they go about their day-to-day routine defusing these bombs they find throughout the city and the countryside. And this movie plays for some truly intense moments, some truly great character work by Mackie and Jeremy Renner, and gets you some insight into the day in and day out of what these men and women, even though there's no women in this film, but we know they're out there, are going through a day in and day out in the war. And there's the interesting thing about this is we know it's Afghan and we know it's the Afghan war, but there's no real timeline. I got a sense that this movie was maybe towards the end of the war during kind of cleanup time, because there's no real heavy combat going on. It's just kind of
exactly a lot of surveillance,
right?
And of course the guerrilla warfare IEDs that they're having to defuse. And what you may not know about these bombs, these IEDs, is the reason they're so dangerous and very well depicted in the practical effects that they use. They just use air coming up from the bottom of the ground, which is kind of what these explosions do. And they expand anything that holds air around them. So if you are a human and you have lungs, it's going to expand your lungs and explode your lungs. And while it doesn't look like a Michael Bay explosion, and at first, I didn't, I was like, well, how did Guy Pearce's character die? There's no fire. His head just explodes, and it's because of what that does to the air system around it. It pushes it. It's like a balloon getting blown up, and then popping is what it'll do to you. So it's pretty horrific. You see Guy Pearce's head explode and you're like, God, geez, and then Renner, he don't even care about this suit. Sometimes he's like, well, if I'm going to go comfortable. And that touches on what we are told at the beginning of the movie. The theme that is going to run through this film: war is a drug. It's addictive. And Renner's character is addicted to what he does.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, which shows even more so towards the end of the film. And I'm going to get his character's name right. He's a Staff Sergeant Will. Yeah, he's Will. And then
I know Mackie's
James.
Sandalwood.
They call his last name. They call him by his last name, James. And Sanborn is Mackie.
Sanborn.
And Eldridge just played their third in command. So yeah. And what's interesting, this is pre-Avengers for both of them. Mackie was relatively unknown. Renner, I think, was almost an unknown at this point too. even though he had been in a few things, but this was definitely his big break. And and they're both really good in this movie. Like, I almost feel like they really don't like each other at times, but yet they have this mutual respect for each other and what they're going through and what they work for each other. Sanborn, played by Mackie, he just, he's very much a company man doing his job and doing as told. And he has a real hard time dealing with Sergeant James and the way he is just crazy. Sanborn doesn't work like
communicate.
That.
Yeah.
He throws his headset off at one point.
Uh-huh.
It's just irritating him when he's trying to defuse the car bomb, and it's driving Sanborn nuts. He doesn't like it, but yet he learns to trust this guy to do his job because he keeps getting him out of these situations, which are life or death. I mean, the whole movie is about life or death, the situations they're in.
Oh yeah. And it's like he has no regard, even less regard for safety in the fact that in the beginning they use a robot to try and pick through and make sure that they don't put themselves in harm's way, whenever they're doing the fact finding stuff. Where is it? Okay, what's it maybe connected to? What's it hidden under? They use a robot. And Renner's character, he just, doesn't matter. He's just going to go out there in the suit.
Right.
Even though that suit ain't bulletproof or explosion proof, as you can see at the beginning of the film.
Hmm. Yeah. And the cool thing about this movie too, as their relationship develops, is the movie does a good job, I feel, dealing with, albeit small, but important aspects of not PTSD because they're still in the war, but dealing with what they're dealing with in the war. Like Sanborn, he just wants to survive. He feels like at this point in his life, he hasn't done anything with his life yet. He wants to get back home. He wants to have a kid. He wants to have a son specifically because he wants his family name to go on. And that's his focus. I just want to go home and have a normal life. And then James is the opposite of him. He has a child already, but yet he's not really in love with his wife. They're kind of going through a divorce thing, and he's not as excited that he's a dad as Sanborn wants to be a dad, but yet that doesn't mean he's a bad dad because he does understand what his duties are as a father. So basically James is still trying to figure out how to live a real life because to him, his life is war because like he said, it's a drug to him.
He can't.
James is all about the adrenaline rush.
James,
and it even shows at the end of the film. No, go ahead.
Yeah, and he has that difficulty kind of working in a civilian atmosphere whenever he's invited into an Iraqi's home to have dinner, and he can't even have a normal interaction with them. He instantly freaks out, pulls his gun, that's that situation turns sideways.
Well, he invaded
but
and so, to be fair.
Yeah, to be fair, he did go in there half-cocked. But he can't even, be civil when prompted to be. It seems like
he joins Bravo Company when they only have about 30 days left of their rotation. And when the rotation ends, he goes back home and we're kind of jumping to the end of the movie because there's some things to talk about, but he doesn't even know how to act at home. He goes shopping with the estranged wife and his child, and he just doesn't know how to be at home. He keeps talking to his wife about the war. You can tell she doesn't want to hear about it. You can see it in her face, but that's all he knows. And of course, it ends with him. It ends with him going back. At the end, he ends up going back for another year rotation. Because he's the opposite of Sanborn. Sanborn's ready to go home. James isn't. He's like he doesn't know how to live any other life. And I think it's really cool how Kathryn Bigelow, as director, told those polar opposites of those two characters. I remember this is a movie that whenever I first saw this, it gripped me instantly. When I saw it back 10, 11 years ago, and then watching it now, it still holds up. It still grips me instantly. It's like this movie is one of the best of the modern war films, and it pulls you in, and it pulls you in a different way than say Lone Survivor might, because this movie, it's almost, how would I even describe that? There's a certain intensity to this and a certain the characters are played so well and quick. And there's only a few characters in this movie that I think it's easier to kind of follow them and what they're doing, and it grips you. And it's a really well told story too.
No, and yeah, the intensity that they experience, like when they're out in the desert trying to help that British company, and they start getting, pinned by sniper fire, and they've got they keep their own people hopping on the 50 BMG to shoot back and snipe these people back that are hunkered down in this bunker. They keep getting taken out. And so they've got to rely on each other, Sanborn and
several hours.
Yeah. And they're just like fucking dying out there. They're sucking down juice boxes, trying to stay awake because they don't know if the guy's playing possum or not. And that's got to be tough. You're out there in the heat. You've got to stare down the scope and, hope you don't die. Because and the mindset of Anthony Mackie's character. So it even intensifies your connection to that character. What's going through his head. You can kind of identify with him because he's so close to what I think most people, would feel a soldier would feel. You would feel that, want to be home, that want to be able to make it home. And now he doesn't know if he's going to be out lying in a pool of blood, where in his words, no one gives a shit about him.
Right.
And no one will care. Versus Renner is probably like, enjoying it somewhat, probably.
Yeah. And what's crazy is, and then when things do almost catch up to him towards the end of the movie, when they have a suicide bomber out there in the streets, and he has to try to get the bomb off of him in time, but he can't. He can't do it, and he's running away. The bomb explodes, and it almost gets him. But yet even after that, he still goes back out there. Because he doesn't know any other way to live. And it just shows you they're different opposites of their characters. So little facts about this is, I was reading, you were mentioned last week, I read that Kathryn Bigelow shot this with a lot of hand cams and unsteady cameras to give it almost a documentary approach to it, which was interesting. It's real purposely grainy because it's they want it to look gritty and like you're in war. This is the movie that went up against James Cameron's Avatar. And James Cameron, of course, used to be married to Kathryn Bigelow, and he encouraged her to do this film. And he said, yeah, absolutely. And he did not know. He joked about a year later that he would lose 6 Academy Awards to her. And he's like, well, I'll never bet against her,
Yep.
Yeah, because she beat Avatar that year for Best Picture by this movie and Best Director. And I thought that was pretty cool. It seems like Cameron and her have a really good relationship, despite being married
that was cool.
Yeah. And so she ended up beating her ex-husband. I'm sure she felt good about that. This
anytime you can beat Cameron. Yeah.
Yeah. Where all footage was used. This Kathryn Bigelow says they shot straight 2 hours of film and no deleted scenes, nothing was used. Everything came in the way it was supposed to, which is pretty rare, for movies. They used the bomb suit was authentic. They borrowed from the U.S. military as authentic apparel, which is cool, as a lot of the stuff a lot of the IEDs and things were all based on, like you were talking earlier, real designs. They had bomb experts show them what these look like. They wanted it to look and feel as real as possible.
Yes. And then especially the one in the car that the guy tried to set on fire to set it off, and Renner's character couldn't find the control unit, the box that leads from the first wire. I forget what it's right. Called. No, I'm no electronics expert or bomb expert myself. So I'm just trying to remember what he called it, but the guy tried to set it off by lighting the vehicle on fire, and then that was actually, I think the vehicle actually caught fire in that scene, and Renner actually had to put out that fire with a fire extinguisher. So that was pretty cool. And then, he's just obsessed with trying to find that controller. And Mackie's like, should let the engineers take care of it. And he's like, nope, I'm doing it.
I was just reading some stuff about the movie.
Well, I know they threw a bunch of trash into the street. Jordan's actually where they filmed is actually pretty clean.
Yeah, I was reading that too. They had to make it look war torn.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they had to make it look war torn. They brought in some torn up cars and some old things and rocks and things like that to make it look more like an Iraqi or Afghanistan city. Yeah, and they said like Jordan was really safe. Like a lot of locals and stuff always wanted to talk to the actors, and the actors had no problem doing it because they felt very safe there. You know, Jeremy Renner and Mackie and them signing autographs, taking pictures with people. You know, they just said it was a really comfortable shooting environment. You know, there, but like I said, the city was really clean. So the hardest part was making it look like a war city.
Yeah, and I think they had an embassy that's not far from there, so they're pretty safe. Bigelow, wasn't she a war reporter too? Didn't she do some Didn't she? I want to say that I read something or heard something that she was actually over there at one point.
Yeah.
Or maybe she just interviewed people that were over there. Maybe that's what I'm thinking of.
According to IMDb, the film takes place in 2004. So that would make sense more towards the end of the Iraqi war because, you know, 9/11 happened in 2001. And we all know we went in there and kicked ass and wiped things out. And by 2004, the war was definitely still going on, but it was probably more cleanup and surveillance and making sure that things were not getting out of hand again. So that's fair to say. But yeah, man, this movie is I like it a lot, man. I think it's a great war film. I think it's definitely something that everyone should see. You know, I think it's a good character study of what these men deal with on a day-to-day basis, and the drug that is war and the addiction that it can cause, but also the will to survive and go home and have a normal life as well from the two main characters in the film. And to the point, we didn't even talk about Eldridge and his character. Like he absolutely hates James because he doesn't show it. He's trying to do his job the whole film. You know, he's trying to do what Sanborn tells him, but he's also trying to work with James because James is his commanding officer. But then when he gets shot because of James's stupidity, basically his overzealousness, Eldridge lets loose and tells him, "Fuck you, man. Fuck you. I hate you."
Oh yeah.
You know, when he gets him back home, he's
like, finally, Sanborn, you're all right, but James, fuck you.
Yeah, he basically holds it all in until he's to that point where he's so pissed off at James. He's like, "Screw you, man." And
both of them hate the environment they're in.
Yeah,
and James, he loves it.
Yeah. It's really, really interesting story, and just a good film. I think there was some people that weren't sure if it deserved Best Picture. But I was looking at the nominations that year. It was a tough call. There were several good ones. But I think this film is an important movie, and I think it deserves. James Cameron even said that, he considers this the platoon of the Iraqi war as far as those movies and things like that.
Yeah.
And, which is, I started thinking when I read that quote, I mean, how many Vietnam movies were there to really compare Platoon to?
Well, there's, there's Good Morning Vietnam.
Yeah,
there's Full Metal Jacket.
I guess there's a few. Yeah.
Forrest Gump.
Yeah. But I mean, but there's not. But how many great Vietnam movies are there? Platoon's probably the best one. There's lots of great World War II movies, and there's already been a lot of great Iraqi war movies. But Hurt Locker, I definitely is right up there. Probably one of my favorite. I really enjoyed rewatching this. It's a good film. Definitely.
And it made that list of 100 films to see before you die.
Yeah, I think it's 1,001 films before you die. I think it's the name.
1,001. Like yeah, that's right. 1,001.
Yeah, definitely a good movie. It's on Max for the time being. It's supposed to be leaving Max soon. But if you've never seen The Hurt Locker, take the time to watch a really good, really well done war film. Well acted too, well directed.
Oh yeah,
by Kathryn Bigelow, first woman director to win Best Picture or win Best Director and Best Picture, I believe. Yeah, and deservedly so. And then she would go on a couple years later to make Zero Dark 30, which is the story about the raid on Bin Laden's compound, and it's really good too. Not as good as this, but still a really good film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same era.
So.
Yeah.
Yep.
Still in Afghanistan.
So next week, we are going to do a fairly current film that came out a couple years ago. And strange that we mentioned James Cameron in this episode because he is a producer on the film we're doing next week and almost came really close to directing himself. But he was so busy with Avatar films and whatever the fuck James Cameron does that he handed the reins of this film to Robert Rodriguez. And that's okay, as I think Robert did a really good job with this film. I think this film is criminally underrated. It did okay at the box office, but it kind of got lost in that summer that year. But yet, this might be one of Robert Rodriguez's best films. And that is based on the very popular manga series. That is Alita Battle Angel.
You told me the story of the war, when the ground shook and the sky burned. Of the ones that survived, who awoke to a different world, where the powerful prey on the weak. But that's not the way it has to be.
When I found you, your very human brain was miraculously intact.
It's the loneliest feeling not to know who you are.
In time, you'll remember.
I remember black skies, the lightning all around me.
Alita's new here. It's a harsh world down here. You gotta be willing to do what it takes.
Alita, run!
My God. She's the last of her kind. She contains technology that have been lost for 300 years.
Let me show you something.
This body, I feel a connection to it. I can't explain. You know more about me than you're saying.
Alita, some things are better left forgotten.
And I'll find out for myself.
She's threatening the natural order of things. I need you to destroy her.
Alita, they will come for you.
I'll have to face them head on. I'm gonna need you to stand way back.
Tonight is not a game. It is a hunt.
Across this new river.
I'm with her.
And this movie is currently on Hulu if you want to watch along with us. And this is a movie that when I did not see this in theaters, I didn't see it till it came out. And I can't remember if I rented it or I might have even bought this without seeing it. Like I'm just going to buy it because it looks badass. And man, this is a cool ass movie. This is like manga and anime come to life on the big screen. I know there's been a few live action animes and mangas over the years, but this one might be amongst the very best because it's really solidly well done. It's just it's cool as shit. I mean, the cool factor in this movie is through the roof. That's for sure. Some good performances by Christoph Waltz and the other actors in this movie. But just, I mean, it's just a cool film. And I've only seen this like once or twice. So I'm looking forward to rewatching it and, getting ready to watch it and giving another look see next week on the podcast as we talk Alita Battle Angel. But until then, the rebelradiopodcast.com for all your Rebel Radio needs as always, and all the links to all the apps and all that great stuff where you can listen to the show. And we thank you as always for listening. We hope you had an amazing Thanksgiving like we did. And until next week, continue to be safe. And remember, as always, this has been Mark.
This has been Matt.
Just go there and do it.
And do it.